Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a privilege for me to be with all of you today, and I thank IIF and the organizers of this program for giving me this opportunity to be here with all of you today. And during these initial opening remarks that I'll be making for the next 15 minutes or so, I thought I will focus first on the challenges that the CEOs of foundries are facing. Then I'll look at the various initiatives that CEOs of foundries can take to meet these challenges, share some of my experiences wherever relevant, and then later on, towards the end of the program, I would like to seek your suggestions, your ideas, your inputs on how we can move things going forward. Okay, to start with, I don't think I'll be very much wrong. I think all of you will accept the fact that the CEO of an Indian foundry, his role is one of the most stressful and the most thankless job there is in the industry today. It is a very thankless job. You know, Mr. Santanam would agree with me when I say he's from the finance background. A lot of people have put money into the foundry. And when they put money into the foundry, they want to see returns on investments that they've made at rates which are at least greater than the cost of capital. And I find that very, very, very few companies are able to do that. Not many companies are able to do that. Which means that CEOs, instead of adding value to a company, instead of adding wealth to a company, the CEOs are destroying value and destroying wealth of an organization. So naturally, there are many reasons why this has happened, but as CEOs, we have to take responsibility and to ensure that these things are corrected. You know, for example, you might think, I'm not able to make adequate profits because the foundry industry is a very capital-intensive industry. The investments required in foundry industry, as again, Mr. Santanam said, is coming in very large chunks, and these chunks are becoming bigger over a period of time. You can also say that my assets are lying underutilized for very prolonged periods of time. When we make projections, we look at asset utilization as one number and then make projections based on that. If those asset utilization numbers don't happen, then our whole projection goes awry. Our, what we have promised the investor and what we actually deliver will be way off. And the investor has every right to be upset about what is happening. We also say that this could be because poor pricing power. The fluctuations in material costs, none of the OEMs are prepared to accept it. We cannot pass it on to the OEMs. And of late, what has happened is some costs which truly belong to the OEMs are getting passed on to the suppliers. For example, earlier development costs, tooling costs were borne in full by the customer. Then later on it became part financed by the customer. Now it is almost fully financed by the supplier. These kinds of changes are happening, these kinds of financial loads are being transferred onto the foundry, which is leading to financial stress. But again, as I said, as CEOs, we need to ensure that these kinds of problems are foreseen and overcome at the right time. So in order to understand what are the challenges that foundries would face going forward, I think we need to look at the foundry industry a little more in detail. The foundry industry, if we classify this industry, would be called a mature industry. And in a mature industry, it is, technology doesn't grow that fast. Technology moves very, very, very slowly. The CEO has a very good visibility on the technology front. I had gone to this foundry in Germany. It's called Eisenwerk Brühl. Brühl makes about 25,000 tons of castings a month. They make only iron castings, only iron cylinder blocks, and they make iron cylinder blocks only for the passenger car industry. If a tractor company were to go to them and ask them to make a block for them, they said, sorry, that's not our business. If a truck company goes to them and tells them, we want a block from you, says, sorry, that's not our business. They are focused totally on the passenger car industry, and they make only cylinder blocks. So I went to talk to him to understand from the CEO as to what does he see the future of iron in cylinder blocks in passenger cars. And what he said surprised me a little bit. What he said was, he says he's got visibility, clear visibility for up to 10 years, and he says that the iron foundries, iron blocks, are still going to play a very key role in diesel passenger cars, at least for the next 10 years. And he said after that he doesn't know. Which means that there is visibility for at least 10 years. If there is going to be a switch from iron to aluminum, from iron to some other exotic metal, there is going to be 10 years for him to recalibrate his strategy. So technology doesn't change that fast in a mature industry. Then the next thing that happens in a mature industry is the cost becomes a very key driver in the purchasing decisions. I'm not saying that quality, service, delivery are not important. Quality, service, delivery are important. But these are hygiene factors. These are factors which are essential to remain in business. What is required is the cost becomes a key driver. Customers buy from foundries based on cost. Other things are taken for granted. The third thing is you find in a mature industry, you find consolidation of capacities happening. So when you look at the foundry industry, we can conclude that the foundry industry is a high volume, low margin business. It is a consolidating business, and it's a very highly competitive business. We should also look at it from the perspective of the buyer, the automotive industry. When I say automotive, I club all the mobile applications, trucks, jeeps, passenger cars, tractors into that segment, and say the automotive industry also is a mature industry. So their customers buy from them based on cost. So what we can conclude is this focus on cost is not a temporary focus. This focus on cost will continue forever. As CEOs, we have to be prepared for that. As CEOs, we have to be prepared for this focus on cost. As CEOs, we have to be prepared for this consolidation. As CEOs, we have to be prepared to ensure that the investments required in those chunks that are required are made so that our foundries are competitive. So these become our things. So then, under today's conditions, what can CEOs do to ensure that their foundries remain viable? Their foundries don't go down. So there are a few things I thought were important, and it's not an exhaustive list, it's an indicative list. Maybe you can look at those things and fine-tune these strategies based on your requirement. The first and foremost thing a CEO should do, according to me, is to focus on human resources. A lot of thought was shared with us. Mr. Vijay Menon shared with us about human resources, the importance of human resources. That also is a very key factor in the discussions that we are having. Human resources play a very key role in the growth, in the stability of a company. I'm not just talking of manufacturing. Human resources in all its forms, in manufacturing, in engineering, in quality, in procurement, in marketing, in HR itself. These are very, very clear things. Get good people, put them into that place, give them the responsibility, give them the freedom to operate, and let them perform. Unless we have a set of people to do this, unless we have a set of capable people doing it, there is no way this company is going to go forward. If it's a one-man show, nothing can happen. You have to get a team, you have to build the team, and to empower the team. That's the first thing that is required. The second thing I feel is establish extremely good manufacturing capability. Manufacturing capabilities, you get good equipment, you maintain these good equipments well, and use these good equipments in a defined manner, as the processes are defined, clearly defined, supported with good people. That is the only way you can get a good casting. At some time in the past, when we as foundrymen had problems of manufacturing capabilities, we always looked to the West, to Western foundries for collaboration, joint ventures, But of late, these foundries have started looking at us as a threat. And because of that, these foundries not only, they don't encourage joint ventures and technology tie-ups, they are not encouraging even visits by Indians to these foundries. Indians are looked at as threat. So there is a perforce pressure on us to evolve our own technologies, evolve our own manufacturing capabilities so that we are able to meet the requirements of tomorrow. Then the next thing that CEOs can do is to focus on continuous improvement. Continuous improvement is a way of life. Every day when every person comes into the plant, he should think, how can I do things better today, better than yesterday? If right from the top man to the lowermost man, if everybody thinks in this way, these small incremental changes over a period of time will transform the organization. I'm sure all of you might say that this is very difficult to achieve, but as CEOs, our role is to achieve the impossible, to do the difficult and achieve the impossible. So that could be a role that's cut out for us. Then design capability. Design capability, so far what is happening is the OEMs give us drawings and we make the components as per the drawing. Okay, very soon OEMs will realize that the domain knowledge for that component rests with the supplier. And that supplier is expected to add value. So he'll give broad parameters. We are expected to make the detailed design and make it suitable for his requirements, and then get into a long-term contract with the OEMs. Suppose we don't start now. When this change happens, maybe 4 years, 5 years down the line, we find that we have missed the bus. So as CEOs, we have to position our companies in such a way that we don't miss the bus. We are in a position to meet this change requirement as and when it happens. So that capability building has to start now. So these are some of the things I think as CEOs we should be focusing on. These are not, it's not an exhaustive list, it's an indicative list. Maybe you can, as Foundryman, as CEO, look at these independently, these issues, and take it forward. The last thing I would like to say is, as Foundrymen, it is my firm belief that we don't understand our strengths. It's my belief, it's my allegation, it's my very firm belief that we don't understand our own strengths. If you go back a little bit to understand what I'd said, these overseas companies are not even prepared to accept Indian visitors as Indian foundrymen as visitors. Why? What is a threat that they see in us? Why is it that these people are looking at us as threat? They could give technology tie-up, they would have technology tie-ups, joint ventures in the past. Why is it that today they look at us as threat? It's not a very easy answer, but then when you look at, if you look at the product cost, an Indian foundry casting produced in India is about 20 to 30% cheaper than the way it is made abroad. Fair enough. When I talk to people as to where this competitive 20 to 30% is coming from, almost all of them say it comes from labor cost. But then if you analyze the balance sheet of an Indian foundry, we find that the labor cost in an Indian foundry is approximately 10% of revenue. But in an overseas foundry, it would be 5%. These are all broad numbers, rounded off, but overseas companies, it's 5%. So labor is not an advantage. Labor is a distinct disadvantage as far as India is concerned. Then we have material costs which are on par with anywhere in the West. We have power costs which are higher in India. We have employment, we have equipment costs. If we get good quality overseas imported equipment, it's more expensive in India. Our finance costs are higher in India. Then, where is that 20 to 30% coming from? There is no simple answer. Each company has its own, there is differences in every company. And when you look at it, this is the threat that overseas companies overseas foundries are looking at. They see capability to drive a 20 to 30% cost advantage in a situation where all the input parameters are hostile towards efficiency. So suppose we work on these. Productivity is a problem, we work on productivity. We work on our negative things. We strengthen our positives. And very soon we find that we have an internationally competitive, quality capable supply base for foundries. And that is the opportunity that we should all strive for. That is the opportunity we should all look for. You know, we are looking at focusing, getting a share of the Indian OEM business. We could at that point of time look at and get the business from all the overseas OEMs. They should open up those when 20–30%. And if they are in a mature industry, they better buy from sources which are cheap. Cheaper, I'm not saying cheap, cheaper at the same quality levels. If we position ourselves like that, that can be a good future for us. So I feel there are many things that as CEOs we can do, many things that we can do, and you know, it's all within us to realize that if we sit and say nothing is that electricity is more expensive, people don't work hard, we have this problem, that problem, we'll end up only talking of negatives. But if you look at these positives, strengthen our positives as CEOs, we can make a difference. We can make a difference to ourselves, to our company, and to our country. So that is the thought I would like to leave you with. And once again, I thank you all for giving me this opportunity to be here to share my views with all of you. And I wish you a wonderful day. Thank you.